Good evening. I'm Cathy Levine, Bread's co-president. We're now going to call this Nehemiah on Zoom meeting to order. We're glad to see so many of you here tonight from across Franklin County.
And I'm James Wynn, the other Bread co-president. While we wish we could all be together with nearly 3,000 others at the Celeste Center, we are fortunate to be able to gather in this space. And we know tonight will be unique and new for all of us. To help make our Nehemiah on Zoom run smooth, we have a few ground rules.
Number one, this is not an open forum. Keep yourselves muted, please, during the entire meeting. There will be no questions or comments from anyone in the Zoom room or on the phone. Only the presenters from Bread will be speaking. If we have technical difficulties, please forgive us. We have never hosted Nehemiah on Zoom before.
Number two, we welcome you to react to what you're hearing, what's being presented. Feel free to press the thumbs up or applause buttons throughout to let us know that you're following along. If we can count on you to keep yourselves muted so that we can get through this smoothly, give us a thumbs up, please.
Thanks, everyone. Number three. So that means that when you hear Bread rises, don't unmute yourself to say rises. I know this will be hard for us, especially me, but we want to make sure that things run smoothly with the technology. And there's a chat box here. Enter your name and congregation in the chat box so we know who's on with us. Go ahead, let's see who's on.
Number four, there will be a series of action steps presented so that we can press our officials to implement the solutions you'll hear about tonight. Please take notes and follow along so that we can take action together.
Number five, lastly, we know that only a limited number of us could get on Zoom tonight. Please invite friends, co-workers, whoever, to view the recorded version of this Zoom meeting on YouTube. It should be available later tonight. We're going to send out a link via email to team members and clergy from your congregation. We'll also post it on our Facebook page, Instagram, and website.
If we can count on you to agree to these ground rules, give us a thumbs up. All right. Now, as we begin our program, I'm going to read a brief statement about Bread's values. I believe it will be up on the screen. The Bread organization is comprised of many different congregations who in turn represent many different traditions. Each of our congregations believes something different about the nature of God and the name of God. But each of us shares a commitment to pursue justice, guided by our faith, to finding in the things that we share the strength that unity can bring. Now, as we begin our gathering in prayer, we will first invite Rabbi Hillel Skolnik of Congregation to Israel to share a brief reaction, and then invite Reverend June Wilkins of Gethsemane Lutheran to offer words of prayer from the stream of her faith tradition, recognizing that this may be different from our own traditions. We vow to respect each other for the things we share and for the ways that we are different. With that, we'll turn things over to Rabbi Skolnik.
Thank you, co-presidents, and thank you to all of you for joining us this evening for this hopefully once-in-a-lifetime experience. I pray that you and your loved ones are well, as we pray for all those who have been afflicted with the COVID-19 virus, and for all who risk their lives to care for the sick, and for all of us. Much has been said about how our social distancing from one another has been restorative to our natural world. Pollution is down, bodies of water are cleaner. Social media is filled with pictures of animals resting on roads where humans are not currently driving. And yet, much as this is good for our natural world, we must remember that to be truly a restored city within a restored world, there is much work to be done. Tonight is our opportunity to rededicate ourselves to that sacred responsibility. Many of our faith traditions include a restorative philosophy or even a sense of what a restored city might look like. When I think of a restored society, I think of the words of Isaiah chapter 2, verse 4. And they shall beat their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. If only we could say that these times of coronavirus had taken us to a time when swords, spears, and guns were no longer a part of our lives, and that there was no more violence in our world. Sadly, this is not the case, and hatred and violence persists. We continue to suffer from a lack of affordable housing, a disparity in resources available to residents of Columbus, and harmful effects on children specifically. As a parent of 3 young children, it is upsetting to think about kids going hungry because they once relied on their schools for breakfast and lunch. We know that this pandemic is putting a financial strain on families, including the rise in the cost of food. Nationally, it has been said that nearly 28% of the people visiting food banks have never had to ask for help before now. On top of that, some parents are struggling to either work from home or continue going to work without necessary childcare. Schools were a safe place for many of these children. Franklin County Children's Services has reported a 36% drop in referrals since the pandemic began, which does not mean that children are not being neglected or abused. It just means it's not getting reported. This is a very disturbing reality to face, and one that will require care and compassion when children finally return to school. It is essential that our children and that our school districts strengthen initiatives like restorative practices so that they can help these children process their trauma and maintain a healthy classroom environment. BRED will continue to work with Columbus City Schools to ensure that all schools are restored and all children, especially those who are vulnerable, are protected. We cannot just sit back and wait for this restored city to simply appear. It is required of all of us to be part of the change and to lead in the work of restoring. Through our power of organized people, we are working to give people with criminal backgrounds good paying jobs. We are working to help families find affordable housing. We are working to restore hope, dignity, and well-being to all our residents. We are working to restore children, youth, and adults to our community. And with our work together, our persistence and perseverance through this pandemic, this restored version of our city will rise. Because, and I know I won't be able to hear you say it along with me, but I know you'll be saying it in your homes, BRED rises.
Hi, I'm June Wilkins from Gethsemane Lutheran Church, and I would like to lead us all in prayer. Creator of us all, thank you for bringing so many people of so many different faiths together for one purpose. Thank you for giving us all a hunger and thirst for your justice. Help us to support one another. Help us to give voice to the unheard. Help us to represent the underrepresented. Help us to help our communities have access to housing, reduce gun violence, live longer and more abundant lives. Inspire us with your spirit. We come here together tonight to serve you and others, to watch justice roll on like a river and righteousness roll like a mighty stream. In your many names we pray. Amen. I'm from Gethsemane Lutheran Church, and I'm also on the Elder Care Committee, and I am introducing that right now. It has been said that this pandemic is only magnifying a problem and deepening disparities that already exist in our community. You may remember that at last year's Nehemiah action, we revealed the disturbing fact that within our community, there is a 27-year difference in life expectancy just between zip codes in our own county. This means that your neighborhood and access to resources directly correlates to your health and how long you will live. Older adults in certain zip codes were already at risk for being isolated and cut off from care before this pandemic. So it is even more dangerous for them right now. Social isolation, although necessary during this time, can impact people's overall health. Brett encourages you to please call and check in on your loved ones and congregation members who are not able to leave their house. Those over 60 years old are the most vulnerable groups being affected by COVID-19. So after this event, please share what you learn with seniors who are isolated. Our Elder Care Committee remains focused on our mission to come together and close the gap, especially when we know the gap in life expectancy is growing during this pandemic. Those in poverty are hit the hardest when they don't have access to health care, and COVID-19 is disproportionately affecting African Americans. We are going to continue working with our Life Expectancy Task Force to identify proven solutions to the life expectancy gap and press our public officials to implement those solutions to close the gap. And now we will have a word from our Franklin County Public Health Commissioner, Joe Mazzola, on ways that we can help stop the spread while still being there for those who are vulnerable. Thank you.
Just hold tight with us. Rob should be pulling up that video right now.
Force has been convened by Franklin County Public Health in partnership with BRED and other stakeholders across Franklin County. We know now more than ever that the disparities that we see in the health status of our residents are really affecting all of us. And so as we look at the continuation of that work, I want you to all hear that you have our strong commitment to ensure that that work does continue into 2020. As it relates to COVID-19, we know that we have seen those with underlying health conditions be most affected. And so whether that's heart disease or diabetes or other underlying health conditions, we know that those who suffer from those have more at risk from a morbidity and mortality standpoint. Also, those who are 60 and over are also most at risk. So I want to ask all of you to continue to help support the health department by doing a couple things. One, of course, is to continue to stay at home as much as you can. Second, if you do go out into the community, please wear your face covering or your mask when you are at the store or in other places in the community. Also, please continue to have that physical social distancing. It's so important to make sure that we keep that space between ourselves and others. And then finally, please check on your neighbors and your friends and your family. We know that this is a stressful time, and we also understand that whether it's a loss of a job or if it's access to healthy foods, those social determinants, again, are so much more important than they ever have been. And so please check on your neighbor and see how they're doing. There are resources available. We've made a list of those resources on our website, which is myfcph.org. Again, myfcph.org. You can find out more information about COVID-19 and all the resources that are available to our residents here in Franklin County. So thank you so much for allowing me to spend a minute or two with you here this evening. And I again want to thank BRED for all the work that they're doing to improve the health of our community and those that they serve. Again, thank you and stay well.
Hello again. I'm Cathy Levine, co-chair of BRED's Jobs Committee. Our country is experiencing record unemployment, 20%, with hard-hit cities across the nation reporting jobless rates of up to 30% due to the coronavirus epidemic. But that's nothing new for Columbus, the Columbus neighborhood of Linden, which was experiencing 20% unemployment well before the pandemic. Due to decades of public and private disinvestment and underinvestment, many Linden residents lack access to living wage jobs, resulting in high poverty and low home ownership. But we have a solution. Together with The Ohio State University and the Linden community, BREAD is working to create living wage jobs and to increase wealth for those living in Linden by establishing successful small businesses owned and operated by residents of Linden. Local businesses that employ some of the most hard-to-hire people and people who need and deserve second chances. I am excited to report that our group, One Linden Cooperatives, has contracted with 2 national experts to make this dream a reality. In February, our national experts met with every local hospital and OSU to begin a process of learning what these anchor institutions purchase and from where. When this study is completed, hopefully this summer, we will develop a business plan for our first business, a new food-related business in Linden, and begin raising capital to purchase a facility and hire and train employees. It has taken several years, but we are making progress. We and our partners have hope for a healthier, thriving, more equitable Linden community. BREAD rises.
Up next, we have housing.
Good evening. I'm Noel Williams, and I'm on the BREAD Housing Committee, known as Families First and Housing Now. In 2018, we learned in our research process that 54,000 low-income families are spending more than half of their income on housing. This is right here in Franklin County. They and others who can't afford housing are people working at fast food restaurants, grocery stores, and as home health care aides. They are single parents, adults with disabilities, recent college graduates, and senior citizens. In fact, before the pandemic, 6 of the 10 most common jobs in Columbus paid little to feed a family of 3 without receiving food assistance. They were struggling before the pandemic. Now, the crisis is getting worse as the very people I just mentioned find themselves without jobs or with reduced income. If they get behind in their rent or mortgage for 2 months, they could face eviction or foreclosure. This is unacceptable. And deferring rent and mortgage payments doesn't help because they still owe the money and faced eviction. Reverend Ahrens?
I am Tim Ahrens, and I'm also on BREAD's Housing Committee. Last year, about 2,000 of you stood up when I asked you if you or someone you love had a housing struggle. Now, I know that we can't stand up tonight and see each other tonight, but I want you to respond to the poll that's about to appear on your screen. you'll see that you have 4 choices. So please click the choice that makes the most sense to you. And you may hit all of the above at the end, but fill that in now and then finish by ending your polling. Let's all do that. Doing great. You guys are quick. As you can see from the poll, let's see, how are we doing? Okay. As you can see, we're filling this in, and the housing crisis for us is still there. Noel? Let's see this fill up. It's coming in.
Bread will not stop our housing efforts. After last year's Nehemiah action, council member Shayla Favor committed to work with us on a plan to ensure that more low-income families have access to affordable housing. We're in the process of crafting that plan. Last year, she agreed to introduce this housing plan to the Columbus City Council by September of this year. But when we met with her online yesterday, she did not agree to our proposal for a variety of reasons, mostly because of our current condition in the country and city. We will continue to press her to work with us on an affordable housing plan. Our committee will also work to get Columbus Mayor Andrew Ginther to do more to tackle this housing crisis. The other big news after last year's Nehemiah action was that the Franklin County Commissioners voted to add more money for affordable housing. As of today, Bread has pressed the city and county to invest $11 million to provide affordable housing for 800 families each year. Let's do the math. That means that $110 million will be spent over the next 10 years on affordable housing. Bread won these solutions because thousands of us showed up last year to press Council Member Favor and the county commissioners to take action. Thousands of us will have to show up again to win even more. And Reverend Ahrens is going to tell us what we can do. Reverend Ahrens?
So not only are we not stopping our housing efforts, we know that we have to push for more given the economic devastation brought about by COVID-19, so that thousands of families who fall behind in rent or mortgage won't face evictions or foreclosure. This week, we must press. We must push on for emergency housing assistance for people across Ohio and across Franklin County. We've met with housing professionals over the past few weeks who told us now is the time to push state and local officials to use recently issued federal funds to help families hit hard by the pandemic. Here's a brief video from one professional, Graham Bowman from the Ohio Poverty Law Center.
Hello everyone, and thank you for inviting me here today. My name is Graham Bowman, and I'm an attorney with the Ohio Poverty Law Center. Since the beginning of this crisis, we've been working tirelessly to remind state officials to not forget about the needs of low-income families that are at risk of losing their housing during this terrible crisis. So there's been an eviction crisis in Ohio for a long time. Over 700,000 households pay over half of their monthly income in rent. And when you're spending that much of your income in rent, it means there aren't dollars available to pay for other things that come up. So if someone has a car breakdown, if they have an unexpected expense, if they have a reduction in hours, if these things come up, They don't have a cushion, they fall behind in rent, and more often than not, these are the families that get evicted. In Columbus, Ohio, there's about 75 evictions every single day. On a bad day in Columbus, that number could be as high as 200. What is that number going to be as we have to live through the economic impact that is going to be with us for a while of this crisis? As of today, about 1.1 million people have applied for unemployment benefits in Ohio. And we all know what happens after a family gets evicted. They are scrambling to try to make ends meet and piece their lives together by going to a homeless shelter, at hotels or motels, or living with friends and family members. That is always an unacceptable crisis and disaster for those families. But when we're living with this infection on top of it, what that becomes is a public health crisis where that family is at risk themselves and also the rest of the community is at risk as that crisis can spread through all of the countless interactions that that family is having. That is why we're calling on elected officials at all levels to support broad-based rental assistance in Ohio. If we're going to get through this crisis together, we have to ensure that Ohio families do not lose their housing, and do not enter homeless shelters or any of these other kinds of horrible living situations that should be unacceptable at any time, but especially now. So please join us at the Ohio Poverty Law Center in calling for broad-based rental assistance. This is an all-hands-on-deck moment, and we need everyone's voices to be heard, especially yours. So thank you, and I hope we all get to meet together someday.
My friends, this is a major, major crisis. But all of us together can make a difference. Here are some ways that Bread can push for emergency housing assistance that will help renters, homeowners, and landlords during the pandemic. Let me repeat, these solutions will help renters, homeowners, and landlords. We need all of you to make a sign to show our elected officials that we want them to do something. It's very simple. Take a sheet of 8.5 by 11 paper and write, "Dear state and local officials, please use the federal funds for emergency housing assistance," and then sign your name. Now, some of the people tonight in the Zoom room at Zoomamaya have already made signs. If you are one of them and you've already made a sign, please hold it up now. Let's see those signs. It should be held up all over the area on your screen. Great. Next, I want you to take a picture of yourself holding the sign. So get your camera ready. And here you are holding the sign. Now, take that picture, put it up on social media, post it on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Use the hashtag Ohio Housing Help. Also, email the picture to Bread, and we will share it on social media for you, especially if you don't have any social media yourself, and ask your friends to do the same. So Bread's email is breadcolumbus@gmail.com. Again, breadcolumbus, one word, @gmail.com. Remember, we're building our people power, so we need all of you to make your signs this week, adults and children. Everybody, if you have questions, your team members can help you. If we can count on you to make your signs, let's see everyone give me a thumbs up. Thumbs up. Thank you all. Now I'll turn things over to the Gun Violence Committee.
My name is Brother Vince Ford. I am the senior minister for the Church of Christ on Genesee Avenue, right here in Linden. A neighborhood riddled daily with gun violence and murder. I'm tired of the violence. While the pandemic has caused most criminals to take a break, shootings and murders in Linden have not. Pastors and other clergy in Linden, like myself and other distressed neighborhoods, continue to hold funerals for young men and women brutally killed. We are always on guard, expecting retaliation by rival gangs, even during funeral services. There should be no place for fear during the celebration of life and death of a loved one. And yet, that's the reality of our neighborhood. I also partner with the Care Coalition, and during our canvassing event, we met a woman whose daughter had been murdered right here in our community. Her daughter was murdered, and now she has to raise her granddaughter by herself. So I want to show you a video highlighting how Patterson, New Jersey is coming together with the help of a national expert, the National Network of Safe Communities, to address group violence and murder. So when you hear about the problems that Patterson is dealing with, you can easily replace Patterson with Columbus, or more specifically Linden, the Hilltop, the Near East Side, because let's be real, Columbus is not one Columbus as we are often told. It's a very divided city.
Genesis was murdered Saturday night heading home from the store with her sister on Rosa Parks Boulevard in Patterson.
July 7, 2014 was the worst day of my entire existence.
She was on her skateboard. She was playing in the street with her, I believe her brother or another playmate or something, and she was struck and killed by an errant bullet.
It broke me down as a father, as a husband, and as a mayor, as your leader, because looking at the outrage of the community and seeing that outrage that something needed to be done, I think was a straw that broke the camel's back.
No matter what the situation, and there's nothing that I could see is worth actually taking another human being life.
For Genesis! Justice for Genesis! Justice for Genesis! Everybody, justice for Genesis! I can't hear you! I can't hear you!
Within that week, we were convening the Tri-City meeting.
We had an opportunity to network with people, and we heard about some of the things that were already in place.
The Safe City Initiative was chosen because group violence is at the top of our list for leading the violence in this city.
So at 12, when I got to the youth house, I learned that everybody from Newark come together. Because the guys from the rest of the county, East Orange, Mount Clair, Irvington, they the enemy. All Newark guys stick together. So while we was in the youth house, we would mess with the East Orange guys, try to fight them, try to push up on them. I guess to Jamesburg, I finds out that everybody from Essex County comes together, right? Because now we fighting the guys from Mercer County. Camden County was our sworn enemy, who Essex County comes together. So these same boys, now that I used to fight on 17th Avenue, they became part of my team at the youth house. As soon as I get into the Atlanta Federal Prison, my Jersey guys come, meet me, see me, walking around, telling me the boys from DC and Philly is the enemy. Everybody from New Jersey sticks together. In Atlanta, I said, wow, wait a minute now, me and this guy gonna have to bond together. I said, wait a minute, if I go to Russia, I said, anybody from America, you know, I'll be, yo, you're from America? What part, Texas? Yeah, I'm from Jersey. We'll try to bond. I said, if I go to Mars or Jupiter, I said, any earthling, I don't care if they was a skinhead, I don't care if they was whatever, they're earthling, we gonna try to bond. So why was I taught At 11 years old, that's somebody 5 blocks was my enemy.
99% plus good people here in the city of Patterson who just want to do their jobs, go to work, be able to operate in their neighborhoods every day, and we have this 1% who are just looking to make it miserable for everybody else.
Since there's such a small percentage of people that are involved, less than 1%, that are involved in violent crime, you identify who they are, and as a result, you could then target them, let them know that you're aware that they're involved in violent crime, because the whole idea of this strategy is to prevent people from getting incarcerated and prevent people from getting shot or killed.
The Safe City Initiative is actually comprised of 3 separate and distinct working groups: faith-based, support and outreach, and law enforcement. Those are our partners that we pull together to build a coalition to be able to address this issue.
It's not all about arresting and trying to find the next person to bring down. It's about saving the community, do no harm to the community, helping the people out. When you show a loving side to the community, then people will work with you to help expose crime. And so this is why when I see Safe City Initiative work along with the I Am Initiative and the faith-based community, we create this triangle effect where people join together with us to help us bring down crime. And it's done in a kind and a wise fashion.
As an ER physician, you know, and as any of us in our professional roles, we tend to think in silos. And this Safe City Initiative has given us the opportunity to think beyond the silos, to look at what services and capacities exist elsewhere, and more importantly than just knowing that they exist, knowing a way to make that connection. Eva Shelter doing the drug mentoring program where they have a counselor who has had self-experience with drugs come to the emergency room at the time somebody is recovering from the acute effects of drugs, almost babysit them and move them from the emergency room to a place of help. So the advantage of having each of these individual capacities is accelerated by having the ability to connect these capacities.
Our role is to identify these individuals, enforce whatever laws we can amongst that identified group, and to attempt to quell any violence before it happens, but certainly if it does happen, and immediately after it happens, to be able to respond with an enforcement effort to reduce any further violence and stop any further shootings incidents.
So under the Safe City Initiative, one of the key components is to make sure that we let everyone know that anybody that needs help is going to get help. And this is why it's so important that we all work together. And this is about the community working together to enhance the community's ability to police themselves. It's not that police departments or police officers come into a community, do law enforcement, and then leave. It's about everybody working together to ensure that proper policing is being done with the community's acceptance.
I've seen tremendous progress here as I've seen nowhere else that I've worked in 36 years.
They tell you behind the scenes, you know, Rev, I stopped selling drugs. Rev, listen, I'm not about that life no more. I stepped out. I got a job. I'm going to Pillar College. I'm doing better in my life. Thank God for you working along with the law enforcement.
You know, we understand that it's crucial to ensure that our citizens of Patterson know that there is help for them, you know, in multiple ways.
I think Safe City Initiative should continue to grow and expound and become an example, not only to Patterson, not only to New Jersey, but I think the world, because we're doing something I don't feel no one else is doing.
And so we also want to show you a testimony right here in our Columbus city from a lady that goes to church with me and many others who are a part of Bread from Genesee Avenue.
So I lost it. If you could go ahead, Mary, and we're gonna come back to it after you do your part.
Hi, I'm Mary Counter, and what we want to talk about now is the solution that we've actually been working on for a while. In 2017, Many of you who've been with Brad will remember that we won a commitment from the Columbus Department of Safety to implement a group violence initiative like the one you just saw in Patterson, New Jersey. I want to recognize the excellent leadership our current Deputy Director of Public Safety, George Speaks, has demonstrated, bringing together agencies that typically do not work together. The Safe Neighborhoods Initiative launched in 2017. Those participating included clergy, the county prosecutor, the U.S. attorney, probation, judges, police, the fire department medical director, and community service agencies. Over a 2-year period, the initiative called in 36 violent offenders. During each session, offenders were warned that future acts of violence would result in swift and immediate prosecution at the federal level. They were also offered hope and opportunity for a new life through direct access to services. As you can see, if Clarissa had to get back to that slide, the results were very positive, and those who participated did indeed stop their violent acts.
Looks like we're still pulling up that video. I'll share those slides again to really take in those stats, as well as the map that shows where Brother Ford's Church of Genesee Avenue is in the Linden area.
Hi, my name is Cynthia. I lost my grandsons, Javon and Jerron Hill, in March of 2018. I found their bodies after they were violently murdered. I want everybody to know that their death is so final and a senseless and careless thing to kill people. We need to stop and think about what we're doing to grandmothers, mothers, and children of these victims. We'll never get the chance to hear them laugh again, and we'll never get to have another holiday meal with them. My grandsons will never get to see my grandson will never get to see his daughter grow up. My granddaughter was playing with a friend, and her friend says, "My daddy is my hero." My granddaughter broke down crying and said, "My daddy will never get to be my hero." If I could just get those young men to see the hurt and the pain they are causing, not just to themselves, but to their mothers and children, I know deep down they want to be a hero to someone, but there has to be a change. You cannot unring a bell. Once you kill them, it's done. I want to do whatever I can to stop this senseless violence. If I could stop one mother from crying, or one grandmother to not feel what I feel. My daughter lost both of her children due to violence, and now she's going through cancer, and she has no one to hold her hand.
Moving on to Brother Ford, if you're on.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry about that. And so as you can see, the results were positive in those who participated stopped their violent acts, but we still have a lot of work to do. But the Safe Neighborhoods Initiative and all of the other efforts by the city are failing to reach violent groups responsible for violence. The time has come for us to enlist experts who understand the problem and have a track record for reducing group violence in other cities. On Thursday last week, our committee met with Mr. Speaks and a representative of National Network for Safe Communities. The national experts responsible for reducing murder and gun violence in cities across the country. Mr. Speaks expressed genuine excitement to work with NNSC to, as he put it, take the initiative to the next level. He agreed to continue his leadership role by meeting with necessary officials in the next 2 weeks to get their needed approval to move forward toward a contractual partnership with NNSC. The price tag will approximately be $370,000 for a 2-year contract with NNSC. So this cost is just a drop in the bucket in costs associated with homicides that will be prevented. This project is a nationally recognized model for saving lives and freeing neighborhoods from terror these violent groups are causing. As one step towards securing funding, we presented Mr. Speaks with a grant opportunity for up to $1 million to fund this effort. Of course, we do not want to hang all of our hope on one community or one source. Mr. Speaks agreed to look at the Department of Safety's budget for the 2021 year as an alternative. At the end of the meeting, the NNSC representative shared that in every city that he has wanted to work, she has wanted to work in with the agency, money was always found to make it happen. We know we have Mr. Speaks' leadership, and we know we will get this done.
So what can we do? In 2017, Mr. Speaks asked Brad to press the Chief Judge, Stephen McIntosh, to get the support of the court. Judge McIntosh attended our Nehemiah action that year and then successfully got the Franklin County Court judges to the table. Today, we know that we will need the approval of the Director of Safety, the Mayor, and the Chief of Police. We are also considering getting support from members of City Council. In a minute, I'll show you a brief statement that we will be asking you to submit either by mail or email to Brad with your signature. We will be emailing the statement to all clergy and the team members so that they can make sure to make sure that I can't spit it out, so they can make sure that you'll have a copy. I would ask that you would either email or mail it to Brad within the week, and certainly encourage others to do the same. If you do not receive a copy within 2 days, please be sure to contact your team member or clergy. I will read the statement now. As a supporter of Brad, I applaud the leadership of Deputy Director George Speaks in bringing agencies together through the Stop the Safe Neighborhoods initiative to stop the violence. At the same time, I know that more must be done. I stand with Brad leaders in support of a 2-year contract between the agencies associated with the Safe Neighborhoods Initiative and the National Network for Safe Communities to ensure significant decreases in murders and group violence. I am asking you to work with Deputy Director Speaks to secure funding for this partnership.
I think you're up again, Brother Ford.
Right. I'm trying to pull up the notes. It just deleted on me. My apologies. Man. Give me 1 second.
Well, do you have the script?
I have the scripture. This is Mary. If you would like me to read Vince's last bit.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. One of our next steps will be to get a meeting with Police Chief Quinlan. I've personally been calling his office, and that would be Vince who's actually been calling his office, because I had been calling his office before this, but Vince has been our point man for trying to call Police Chief Quinlan right now. And we've been trying to get a meeting with Brad and have had no response. Vince has spoken to other clergy who have reported the same lack of response. This is not acceptable. Vince and the clergy agreed last week to inform Chief Quinlan that we will be gathering outside of the police station while practicing safe social distancing to present him with your signed statements that you know we're going to provide to you, and we're going to demand a meeting. We will meet and keep you posted as we organize this event. Vince knows in his heart, and I know in my heart, that even during this disastrous pandemic, God is working through us. God is working through you, and together, Brad will continue to rise for justice.
Thank you, Mary. We're going to pass it over to Brother Wynn.
We have heard progress reports, and we have also heard the need for continued action. Let us take a moment of silence for all those impacted by the current pandemic, for children, older adults, the undocumented, healthcare workers, small business owners, people who have lost jobs and income, and many, many others. Thank you very much. This work that we are doing is serious. We are building a better city, a restorative city. It must not end with tonight's virtual meeting. The power of hundreds of us coming together tonight will make a difference in the coming year as we look to get results on commitments made. Our work is not done. As people of faith, we have a responsibility to act. We need all of you to follow through by emailing us your signs and posting them on social media to push for emergency housing assistance. We need you to email or mail your statements of support for officials to enter into a contract with the National Network for Safe Communities. We need you to tell your friends and other people from your congregation to watch this video on YouTube and to take action as well. We need thousands of us to take action. If we can count on you to help our committees and share this information with your friends, please give us a thumbs up. All right. Appreciate it. Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to be closing out with the bread prayer. It should be on the screen. Now, we would encourage you to pray out loud with me, but please do not unmute your audio. So if you would please pray with me. Oh God, to those who have hunger, give bread. And to those who have bread, give the hunger for justice. Amen. Thank you for joining us tonight in our continued fight for justice in our community. God bless you.